The school bell rang sharply across the quiet halls of Lincoln High School in a small Oregon town. Students shuffled through the corridors, some buzzing with excitement over the upcoming annual talent showcase. It was one of the few events in the year where students could step away from academics and show what made them shine. Posters filled the walls. Showcase your talent, music, dance, art, all welcome. In the middle of the noise and chatter stood Emma Green, a quiet 15-year-old girl with tired sneakers, a second-hand backpack, and eyes that rarely looked up from the floor. Most people didn't talk to her much. She wasn't part of any clubs, didn't sit with anyone at lunch, and her name was usually whispered only in the context of who her father was, the school janitor. Mr. Green had worked at Lincoln High for almost a decade. He was kind, hard-working, and always whistled while he mopped the floors. Students often walked right past him without a second glance, but he never seemed to mind. Emma, however, felt those glances, or the lack of them, every day. On that chilly Wednesday morning, Emma stood outside the music room. Inside, students were auditioning for the showcase. Laughter echoed through the door as someone finished an offbeat drum solo. She took a breath and stepped in. Mr. Collins, the music teacher, spotted her immediately. "Yes?" he asked, eyebrows raised. Emma's voice was barely above a whisper. "I'd like to sign up for the talent showcase." A few students nearby turned and stared. One girl smirked and nudged her friend. A boy whispered loud enough for others to hear, "Is she gonna sing or sweep the stage?" Mr. Collins, caught between politeness and sarcasm, forced a smile. "Oh, what talent will you be performing?" "Violin," Emma said. That got a louder reaction. A violin, from the janitor's daughter. Someone in the back chuckled. One of the other teachers who was assisting Mr. Collins leaned over and said under his breath, "Let her try. Might give the kids a laugh." Collins shrugged. "All right, Emma, you've got 2 minutes tomorrow morning before the main rehearsals. Bring your violin. Let's see what you've got." Emma simply nodded and left, clutching her schedule sheet tightly in her hand. That evening, she walked home quietly beside her father. They lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment above a hardware store. It wasn't much, but it was clean and warm, thanks to her father's dedication. After dinner, Emma went to her small room and pulled an old, slightly damaged violin case from under her bed. The violin inside was scratched and faded, but to Emma it was priceless. It had belonged to her mother, who passed away when Emma was only 7. Her mother had been a gifted violinist, once dreaming of playing in orchestras. Now, all that remained of that dream was this instrument and the talent she had passed down to her daughter. Emma rosined the bow slowly, placed the violin under her chin, and closed her eyes. She wasn't just playing to prepare for the showcase, she was reaching into something deeper. Her fingers danced across the strings, not with textbook precision, but with emotion. The music she played wasn't written down. It came from memory, from feelings she had no words for. Her father paused outside her door, listening. He didn't say anything, he never did, but the slight smile on his face was enough to know he was proud. Emma practiced late into the night. She wasn't nervous. She wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was going to play because the music inside her had waited too long to be heard. And tomorrow, whether they laughed or not, they would listen. The auditorium was buzzing the next morning. Students filled the seats while teachers reviewed last-minute notes. The stage curtains fluttered as performers moved nervously behind them, some adjusting costumes, others tuning instruments. No one paid much attention when Emma Green stepped in, clutching her worn violin case. Mr. Collins, with a clipboard in hand, scanned the list. "Emma Green," he called out without looking up. Emma walked up quietly. There were a few laughs in the audience when they saw her. Whispers spread like sparks. "Is that really her violin? Bet it sounds like a dying cat. Watch her break a string in 2 seconds." Mr. Collins signaled for silence. "All right, let's hear it," he said, motioning her to the center of the stage. Emma walked under the bright stage lights and stood still for a moment. She could feel all the eyes on her. The same students who ignored her in hallways were now ready to mock her in front of everyone. Still, she didn't flinch. She tucked the violin under her chin, closed her eyes, and took a deep breath. Then she played. The first note cut through the chatter like a sudden gust of wind. It wasn't loud, it was soft, gentle, but it was pure, clear, beautiful. The room fell silent, not because someone asked them to quiet down, but because they were stunned. Her bow moved with a fluid grace, rising and falling as if it had a life of its own. She played a melody no one recognized, something original, something haunting. It held sorrow and strength in every note, the kind of music that didn't just entertain, it told a story. Some students sat with their mouths slightly open. Others leaned forward in disbelief. Mr. Collins slowly lowered his clipboard. His usual stern expression gave way to something softer. Shame, perhaps. The other teacher, who had laughed the day before, looked down at the floor. By the time Emma reached the climax of her piece, the air in the auditorium felt heavier, like everyone had forgotten to breathe. A single tear rolled down one girl's cheek. Another boy, known for making the most noise in class, just sat there quietly, eyes wide. And then silence. Emma let the final note linger for a few seconds before lowering her violin. She didn't smile. She didn't look for approval. She simply nodded politely and began to walk off stage. For a moment, no one moved. Then the clapping started. Slow at first, then louder, until the entire room stood in applause. A standing ovation from students, teachers, and even the janitor standing near the back with his mop paused mid-air. Mr. Collins stepped forward, clearly trying to find words. "Emma," he began, his voice cracking slightly. "That was remarkable." She gave a humble nod but said nothing. As she returned backstage, a woman in a black coat stopped her. She was a guest judge, a representative from the Portland School of Performing Arts. Her voice was calm but excited. "Emma Green?" Emma turned around. "Yes? I want to offer you a full scholarship to our youth conservatory program. We rarely offer them at the high school level, but what you just did out there isn't something we see every day. That wasn't just music, that was magic." Emma blinked, stunned. Her fingers still trembled from playing. Back in the auditorium, Mr. Green watched from the shadows. He didn't cheer or draw attention, but his eyes glistened with pride. His daughter, once ignored, laughed at, and underestimated, had just turned the entire school silent with a single instrument. In just 3 minutes, Emma had proved that true talent doesn't wear expensive shoes, doesn't need polished words, and certainly doesn't come with privilege. It simply needs a chance. And today she got hers.